Hey guys, this is the Blue Collar Future podcast. I'm here with Shawn. Remind me your last name?
Ramsden.
Ramsden. I never see your name. I
No.
just see you as Brolly's dad,
Yep.
construction. I'm like, so I forget. I mean, people will refer to you as Shawn in the group text or on the live or something for the Trollco stuff, and I'm like, who's that? I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, even in our own community, tons of people call me Brolly or like
Yeah,
Brawley's
yeah,
dad. And I don't know. It's cool to have that alias though. Like it's like the branding.
yeah.
I did that
So
right away.
yeah. So let's get right into that. What do you do and where does that come from? The Brawley's dad.
Ah, man. So originally, I used to do bodybuilding, and then Popeyes had one of those transformation challenges. I'd never had Instagram.
Mm.
So you would get like an extra draw for the giveaways. So I just looked at my kid and I was like, Brawley's dead. He's got an irregular name, so it's probably on there. And then years later, when I started doing my trade stuff, it was the personal account still. And then somebody went on there and liked a bunch of pictures of my kids. So I set it to private and I started the new account, but I was like, there's already people following. I guess that's the company name now. And it's good. Yeah, I like it. It's personable. Customers seem to like it.
Yeah,
And not a lot of people put it together. So it's
yeah,
cool. It's just like a
yeah,
name.
yeah. That's cool.
Um, yeah, man, I've been like a million lives. So I'm a carpenter by trade. I started doing steel framing and then drywall.
Yeah, because I was
Started
about to
at,
say that's what I know you as doing drywall, but you're
yeah,
then a carpenter then, like originally.
yeah. I
Hmm.
started as a carpenter,
Hmm.
and then got into doing custom builds and all that kind of stuff. And then I wanted to run crews, and then I eventually got up to running large commercial sites. And then just like fell out of love with it. And I found the taping community. Drywall's always had this weird stipulation that we're the trash of the universe. You know what I mean?
That
Because
that is
we
literally
kind of
there's
are.
that's literally like people around here, I swear that do drywall like seem like they are illegal here.
Yeah.
Like, but then again, like concrete gets the same type of stipulation. Like concrete guys are just freaking, yeah, low
Yeah.
IQ trash pretty much. But no, I feel you.
So Instagram kind of like pulled that screen back, and so you could kind of see what like top tier stuff looked like in this realm. And like the tools, I had no idea that there were automatic tools. I had no idea of like how to do it to the best of like what's out there. And that got exciting. So I started doing that stuff on the side while I was running the commercial sites, and started getting picked up by companies, and like it was just so much fun. Every time I was doing it, it was so much fun. So I just quit that other job and just like dove right into it, and it's been a blast, man.
Yeah.
Um,
How's the learning curve been? I know a lot of people like a lot of people I know around here like it's fairly common to if you're in the trades to build your own house and stuff and
mhm.
try to do as much work as you can. And a lot of people are like, I'm not doing the drywall. That's too much. That's like I'm not taking that on, you know. It's too hard, like it's too monotonous, too boring, whatever. Like whatever the excuse is.
It's what you see,
Yeah.
right? So, if you're doing your own wiring and it's messy in the wall, but it's
Yeah.
doing the job, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, you know. But you float a wall out funny, you're gonna see that forever. So I think people don't want to do that, and it's messy.
Yeah.
If you don't really don't know what you're doing, you can be really messy with the mud. If you do know what you're doing, I'm still covered in it, but I think that's more like playing in it than anything. You know what I mean? The learning
Yeah.
curve's not bad, especially when you get into the tools, because essentially they're all jigs where you'll have an 8, a 10, a 12, a 14-inch box which has a brass bar on it. That's essentially a jig, and you just run it along the wall. So when you kind of figure out that side of it, it's not that difficult. It's more of like the situations you'll be put in where you've got a bevel that's humped, and like you can't just run it down the middle like you would everywhere else. You have to understand where the mud needs to go. Like I guess that kind of the learning curve is difficult. How to make things faster, more efficient, more
Yeah.
predictable when you're sitting, that kind of stuff. Like it's one of those things. I've talked to I worked for a guy that had 50 years experience and he was still kind of picking stuff up. It's like, oh, that's a neat way that you do that. And it's like, okay, see, it's forever a
Yeah.
learning curve.
Yeah, I mean, I think to some extent that's how a lot of people are, because I mean, if you don't get out of your little bubble of like
Yeah.
where you work and see how other people do things, you'll just always do it the same way. And if you're not always chasing efficiency and perfection, I guess, trying to find different ways to do things, you'll probably just keep doing the same thing. So if you see someone else doing something different, you'll be like, it's kind of weird, you know? But
That first year that I went full blast, I had made a bunch of connections through Instagram and through the podcast and like the events that we go to. And I worked with probably more than 20 finishers that year and just picked up little things from everybody. And I feel like anytime somebody gives you a little like, and by the way, this is what I do in this situation, it catches you up like a year. Because it's like that stumble, 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 and then you'll have that eureka moment when somebody's just handing those out to you. It's awesome. And then sometimes you'll go and it's nothing. It's like how they clean their bucket or how they like do whatever, right? Like sometimes you don't pick up as much, and then some sites are like a gold mine for that kind of stuff. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be in the position I am today. Working with all, like you said, seeing that many different people with that many different styles and that many different mud consistencies and what tools do you use, and it really did help that learning curve.
well, even what you said there, you picked up little things like when they said, this is what I do in this situation. You still have to be open to that because like
Yes.
you have to be able to pick up like, oh, and like be paying attention, I guess, be looking for it because even if they tell you that, like a lot of people will just go in when you're out the other. They may do it like when this person initially says it and then just not even think about it again because if you're not in that mindset of trying to be better, um, it just you won't be learning new things constantly. So you have to be trying to do that constantly in order to retain that type of stuff. And like you say, you can pick up these little tips and tricks that will, I mean, it probably take you a year or two at least to learn them on your own, if you do.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff you got to be in that specific situation, and when it's like something real odd or something real tall or something really out of place, like you might not even come across that until one day that you really need it. But something like that'll happen on a site where you're with somebody and they're not worried about it at all, and you're like, this is gonna be a mess, and they're like, no, let's just watch. And it works out great. You're like, okay, yeah.
These,
It's I think what you're touching on is ego, right?
yeah,
Where these guys, or anybody really, think they're really good at their job, which is important. You have to feel that. You have to feel like you're kicking ass every day. But like you're not the best on the planet, you know? And even on Instagram, find the best person in your trade on Instagram that is not the best person on the planet. And I'm sorry, but some guy in the jungle somewhere or something, like there's always things to learn. And like I've been sitting down with people that I'm like, this person isn't going to teach me anything today. And they're like a wealth of knowledge. They're just so humble that, and if you have that ear to listen, you don't have to do everything that people suggest, but it's good to listen.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, no, I get that. Like in the trades, I think everybody wants to be really proud of what they do, and I think a lot of
Hmm.
people just take it too far, to the point where people just like if they see something that's not the way they do it, they just think it's
Hmm.
wrong,
Right.
and it's a it's a really weird thing to be dealing with, and like on Instagram, people in the trades are like the hater type people are so quick to get on there and like say, "Oh, this is garbage. Like this is the worst work I've ever seen." And it's like, really? I mean, you got to get on there. Like, first of all, who cares what you say? And why does it matter? second of all? And why do you think that you know better than anybody else? And it's crazy. And I see it a lot in the concrete world. It's like every single concrete person has something to say about somebody else's work. And
Hmm.
um, yeah, I've never understood that. I don't go around bashing people's work on. I mean, I may see some work and I'm like, holy crap, that's garbage. But I'll sit there and like comment, oh, this is the worst work I've ever seen. You guys did this and that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you just move on. I mean, some people, I mean, if people are making money doing that type of stuff and they're
Totally.
busy, it works for them, I guess.
I mean, I've been down to like, because I've done quite a bit of traveling as well. And like you go down into some of these smaller cities and you take a look at like the work that they're doing.
Mm,
And it's like, dude, this is like, this wouldn't pass in townhouses where I come from. And they're the
mm,
best there. Like they are the best top tier people in their area.
yeah,
And everyone's happier than shit about it. So it's like, who are you to really say
yeah,
anything, right? Like
yeah,
if the customer is hiring you for the product you provide that exact product, everybody
yeah,
gets paid and you go home. That's your job.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, I think a lot of those guys will take a look at what we're doing. Like my butt joints get 4 coats. A lot of guys are doing 2.
yeah, yeah,
So, if you're talking to the guy that's doing 2, he sees me wasting time
mhm,
as opposed to I see that quality difference, right?
yeah,
And it all depends on what you're providing and what you're doing. I also think a lot of guys and girls, I don't mean to keep saying guys, but um, they're taught by someone, you suck so bad at everything when you start. And then you find that one person that like seems to know it all and is killing it. And like they teach you that way, you're proud of that way. And then everything outside of that is like outside of what it is because this is how I was taught. But like
yeah,
old or whatever the guy's name is, his way might not even be the right way. Like you
yeah.
you don't know it was what you were taught and it's what you got good at. And I think people
Mhm.
carry that like a little close to the chest or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a badge of honor, you know? I mean, it's the same way
Totally.
people are flaunting their college degrees in front of people that didn't go. And oh yeah, I went to this school. I went to Stanford for this, or
Hmm.
I went to MIT for this, or whatever. And it's like people are proud of it. And if they see someone that like they're learning from that they think is doing a really good job, yeah, it's something to be proud of. Like, yeah, I learned from so and so, and they're known, quote unquote, to be the best around and all that type of
Hmm.
stuff. So, what what level finish do you guys usually do? Or like I've recently come across like the drywall level finishes, right? So
Hmm.
I did my range hood, um, and I had to do some drywall work on it, I guess, because we put the sheetrock up and
Yep.
did the joints and stuff, but it was only a means to an end because I was going to plaster it. But then I was
Yes.
looking through the plaster specifications, and they were like, this requires a level 5 drywall finish, and I was like, why? What?
So
Why?
um, we I always do a level 4 finish, which is you tape and then do 3 coats. Um, After your tape coat, that first coat, you're filling the bevel. The second coat is kind of making it flat. And that's where a lot of people stop. With that third coat, it is such a minimal amount of mud that you're putting on with the box. It's quick. You're not wasting a lot of material doing it. And then come sand day, everything's so predictable and it's flat. So being able to run through and have a quick sand day, I'll spend a full day skimming, no problem, if it will shrink up my sand day because it's
Yeah.
miserable.
Oh yeah.
Not
Yeah, the
predictable.
sanding's the worst part that I think a lot of people don't want to do. Like that's the sitting there, I mean it's not fun.
So, the way we do things with the machines, like I was saying before, they're all like a jig. Like it all is super predictable. You keep it straight and it all just layers on top of itself. With that automatic sander, man, you're running with it. Like you're briskly walking, sanding the house out, and it's getting done, right? Like the only thing that's I don't want to say monotonous, but like and the time consuming stuff is like picking your angles and doing your detail work, but like that's gonna happen anyways. It's sanding's not a miserable thing when you're not putting too much mud on the wall, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, so that level 5 finish with the plaster, when you're adhering to mud and then you're adhering to paper, they're different.
Hmm.
So that level 5, it makes the entire wall the same. So a lot of times that you'll find that is when there's going to be like flashing through paint, where there's a lot of natural light or something like that. And it's just because you've got paper, you've got roughed up paper from sand, you've got mud, like you've got a bunch of different textures on that wall, and then you're just going to paint it. Well, the paint's not going to blend it. So
Hmm.
that's typically what you do a level 5. Or if it's like plaster and they want a smooth coat flat, and then typically you'll prime it with a special primer and then do like a Venetian after.
Yeah, yeah. I primed it with the primer, and honestly, after that, I think I coated my whole range hood with mud. I'm pretty sure I did, but I didn't plan on that. I didn't plan on the level 5 finish, and so I was looking at it before I started the plaster, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if this is gonna work." 'Cause I'm not a drywall guy. There's no way I'm gonna get it to this top tier level, and so I just decided to go with it, and it turned out all right. I don't know if that was the right way or whatever, but it seemed like it worked.
It's there's we were talking about that too, man. There's not a real like right way. It's
Yeah,
when it's done, is it flat? Is it straight? Does it
yeah,
paint well? Like
yeah.
that's kind of right.
Mm, yeah. So are there jobs you go on that like, I mean, I guess you touched on that already. If it's gonna be the lighting situation or plaster or whatever, that's when you require a level 5,
Yeah,
essentially.
when in your quoting stages, you really got to know what's going to happen. And when that's out of a set of blueprints, like you really have to understand what is in the space. Um, being on site is different. You could see like where's the sun coming up and going down and that kind of stuff. But if you've got like big cathedral ceilings, or if you've got like a wall of windows, big sliding windows, anything like that, like you really want to take that into account of like what are the focal points. And but it's about roughly another dollar a square foot to do it, because you either have to spray it or you need to like roll and skim it, and it's quite a bit of work because it's got to
Yeah.
be flat at that point. Like you're not just um fanning out butt joints and like hiding bevels. At that point the entirety of the wall has to be flat or you'll see it. um so not a lot of people do it. It's just
Yeah.
expensive. Yeah.
Well, I highly doubt a lot of the guys around here take any of that into consideration. Like I don't want to sound too. I mean we talked about it. Like the stigma is that the drywall guys are trash, but like
Yeah.
I don't want to talk like that necessarily because the concrete guy thing gets the rep too. Like a lot of times people come on our job and they're like, "Man, this is the whitest Mexican crew I've ever seen," because we don't have Hispanic people on our crew. It's like, and that's not normal around here anymore. So
Hmm.
not to say that the Hispanic people are trash or anything, but like
No.
the it just is like the stigma around here. But I also see a lot of what they do, and they don't. I mean, they don't seem to put that much effort into it. And I think it's more of the building standard right now,
Hmm.
and just trying to bang them out. And I highly doubt that. I mean, maybe the person that is running the crew off site or whatever, they're directing them like, yeah, you need to do level 5 finish here because of
Hmm.
this window scenario or whatever. But a lot of times I highly doubt it, especially in the volume building world. I just don't see that happening around here. But maybe
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
when you're talking production and you got 10 guys on a site
Yeah.
and you walk over and ask how many years of experience everybody has, you're going to have
Mhm.
one or two guys with 3 or 4 years, and the rest of
Yeah.
them are going to be that
Yeah.
typically. And it's
Yeah.
just production. It's like we need extra hands. Don't think, don't do anything, don't be smart. Just do what we tell you, and we're just going to get this done. And then through that process, you really do build the understanding of step one, step two, step three, but that it takes time, right? And I think by the time somebody's put 5 years into something, they're not working for your shitty wage anymore.
Yeah. Probably not.
right? I'm going to go do this on my own. It's funny when we talk in trash because it's like go to any $3 million build around you and go see those drywallers because they're top tier.
Yeah.
But there's only so many. Um, I think
Yeah.
Instagram does a good service of like showing everybody what's out there and like getting your name out there and like building community and that kind of stuff. But you'll also find guys seeing us run the tools. Like my kit's probably 12 grand, where typically like a hand finisher's got $600 worth of tools.
Yeah.
Um, so people think, yeah, I'm going to dump that money in and I'm going to be like rocket fast right away. But there's such a learning curve on it that I think some people get into it and they don't learn the right way, but they kind of see what works. And it's not the same as somebody that is like a veteran in using them and has like a full understanding of how the tool works, like how the tool functions. Um, so that kind of quality stuff comes into it too. It's just it's almost heartbreaking sometimes where you hear from people where they're like, "Oh, I bought an auto taper. I thought I was going to tape this house out today, and I got 2 rooms into it. It's all jammed up." And, and you're like, "Yeah, dude, that happens to all of us." It,
Yeah.
you just got to keep going, and people get frustrated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just the yeah, that's just the way it goes. I mean, a lot of times in no matter what you're doing, if there's like a new technology that comes out, like a lot of people will jump on it and figure it out, and then you'll kind of get stragglers jumping on it late, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll think it's just going to revolutionize and be easy and stuff, and there's a learning curve, and they don't want to take the time to learn the way you run the tool or whatever it is. Um, and so they just get frustrated and just go back to the same old because it's easy and it's predictable and they know how.
Um, I got in with Columbia real early. I don't know if I badgered them so much that they took me on or if they had like incredible foresight, but whichever of those two happened, it happened. And the auto taper is like one of the most complex tools on the market, period, of all trades, because I actually got one. There's like so many moving parts, right, in
Yeah,
this head assembly.
it looks like a nightmare to just try to figure out on your own.
Well, that's kind of the thing because it's like you can run it, but you have to understand how it works and like yeah, like using different parts of it and like utilizing different parts of it. So when we had a couple young kids, they won one of these, and I brought them down to my site. Watch me run it on the top floor. I'll let you run it on the bottom floor. And we've gotten together with a few different people where they're not comfortable running the tools, and then we'll go out and spend the day with them. Like we'll do like a day rate or something. But it's always a lot of fun, and everybody always leaves with a better understanding of at least what to like not do. Where things like the boxes, I'm enormous, so generating force is very easy for me as opposed to a very small person where they're having to use leverage, they're having to like your body positioning, things like that to generate the same amount of force. So me telling you how I run my box isn't real helpful, but what settings I use, how I've put it together to make it what I want, what handles I'm using, mud consistency, like all those types of things are really helpful. So you kind of bridge that gap. And Columbia Tools is the only one doing that. I don't see anybody else doing that. Like we've got a solid community behind it. It's nice. It's family.
Hmm, interesting. How much does that speed up your process? I know you've said it helps you a lot and stuff, and other people have a hard time because it's a learning curve, but like how much quicker does it make running your joints and all that type of stuff?
Oh man. So like if you've got a veteran taper runner,
Yeah,
probably tenfold, something like that.
it's crazy.
Yeah, for like a single person to be able to run through a 10,000 board foot house in a day, if you were hand taping that, I don't know, you'd be days and days and days.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
wouldn't be as consistent and it wouldn't be as predictable. And but there are people
Yeah.
out there just killing it too with like a slot box. They've just been doing it so long, they've got that like muscle memory of like what I'm doing,
Hmm.
pull, tug, wipe.
Yeah.
They're moving pretty good. But I mean, somebody just starting to somebody, full blast, probably 4 or 5 times.
That's crazy.
It's pretty wild, dude. Yeah.
That is crazy. I'm still thinking a little bit about the level finishes.
Hmm.
So you said you put that third coat on always. You do the level four finish always. A lot of people
Hmm.
stop at two. Is that basically a level three finish or something? I mean, essentially, or is that just like how does that work
So,
between those two?
like a level one finish is basically like a fire break. So you're just taping
Yeah.
the
Okay.
joints, so
Hmm.
you're not getting smoke going through.
Hmm.
A level two finish is a single run over everything, which is just like we don't want to see the tape. A level three is where everybody, the majority, like a big chunk of everybody is doing. And that is a first coat to fill the bevel. And then typically you'll split your butts, or if they're doing it by hand, they do a full skim on the butts. They'll come back a second time with like a 12-inch box or trowel or whatever. And then that's it. Um, I think for us as the finishers, it's more sanding, it's more touch ups. Like you're not going to have a perfect pull on a second coat without a scratch or a divot or something that you're going to have to come back and fix. So I think that jump between level three and level four is really like a
Really
personal
big.
preference.
I
Yeah.
I'm like trying to think in my home building project. I think they did a level three is what
Hmm.
I'm assuming.
Super typical.
Yeah,
And
I
it
would.
is a good job.
Yeah,
It's not like you're going to do that and then leave all the stuff that you
yeah.
didn't achieve with the fourth coat. You've just got to go back and do it by hand. So it's just,
So I mean, it really doesn't save much time to do that. I mean, especially if you didn't do your level three very well, and there's a lot of touch up, then you might as well have just gone to another coat
totally.
total.
Well, and now the other part of that, if you're running the boxes, that means that you have to have the next size box up, which is like another $500.
Oh,
You need certain things to facilitate certain coats, unless are like a trowel guy or something like that. That's exactly the way I looked at it, though. Same with my butt joints. I do them all as if it was a nightmare one. Like, so maybe 3 or 4 out of a house would actually need that level, but I just do them all that way, every single one, because I don't have to care. Oh, how full is it? How this and that? No, over 36 inches. This is flat, period,
yeah.
and it's probably overkill on 90% of it, but I don't have to think about it. I can just do it and
Mhm.
go, go, go. And that's the same with that third coat. Is like,
Yeah.
does it need it here? Probably not, but it's gonna. And then you get to this certain point where you're running the boxes and things are looking really good, and then you just want it real straight and you want it all like aesthetically pleasing. And that's kind of where a lot of us are at. So you're not achieving that without that third coat.
I bet that's pretty satisfying. What's
Oh,
what's
dude.
your favorite part about that you found about doing drywall in general? I mean, is it getting to that level and getting that perfection out of it, or
I mean, I think in the beginning it was like, this is a disaster, and I know I'm gonna make it perfect. And then just like bridging that gap. I'm one of these like do difficult things guys, and it something about it turns my crank a little bit of like, somebody would botch this and I'm gonna ace it. And like I do that on purpose, and it doesn't even matter because nobody's gonna even see it. But I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna show whoever would have done this how to do this. And it's a good feeling, man.
yeah.
Like having that sense of achievement at the end of the day and being proud of what you're doing is important for me.
Mhm.
It like helps me sleep at night. So finding difficult stuff.
We
There we
lost you
go.
there for a second, yeah.
I was gonna say you were frozen. Um, yeah, but I think now it's the aesthetic stuff. Like I'm working with like one of the best tool runners in the industry right now. Like he was real big before, and then I call it his Jedi training, where he like buggered off for 2 years and came back, and it's very, very hard to achieve what he does. And I've known him for years, so he's like, why don't we work together? And it's
Yeah.
been amazing trying to like get to where he's at. It's fun. It's like you're just chasing the
Yeah.
next shiny ball, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember if you said or not. How long have you been doing it then?
So I've been in the industry for a long time, but doing what I'm doing now, 2 years.
Mm.
So I know. And like I'm talking to guys that are 20-year guys, and I'm giving them advice and like how I do certain things. And then they'll go, "How long you been doing this?" I'm like, "I don't know, 2 years." And they're like, "What do you mean 2 years?" Like, but I think that's because I worked with so many different people, and
Mhm.
I'm 100% open. Like I'll try something that sounds stupid just to see.
Yeah.
Like I know this isn't going to work, but okay, maybe it might, you know. And then if it doesn't,
A lot of people would be worried about that because of the what if it doesn't, and then having to fix issues or go through and redo things, and oh man, I won't waste the time doing it. And yeah.
I'll typically pick a room that doesn't matter, like a bathroom that's going to get a bunch of tile in it or whatever, and try new stuff in there. If that's the case, in like big wide open rooms, those are like your picture showcase rooms. Like
Yeah.
you do that the way you know is the best.
Yeah.
But you got to keep trying stuff, and every once in a while you hit something, and you're like, dude, this is a big deal. And then it carries on with you, and things get easier.
Yeah.
We got different muds and stuff too, with different like glue content and like you know what I mean. Like they are all for different things. And if you haven't kind of gone through all of that spectrum too, and like the consistency that you can make each one and try and find what's right with it, it's there's just so much. When you take a look at something that is supposed to be like a brain dead trade, it's like this is pretty in depth.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting because it doesn't get talked about a lot. And I know, I mean, just from watching it and messing with it a little bit myself, like there's a lot to it. And in order to make it look like a brainless trade, it takes a lot of work and time to just to get that level of proficiency even. So
Totally.
it's crazy. I mean, but it's the same with concrete too. I think that's why I've been so interested in learning about it. Like, people think that anybody can do concrete, which I agree with, except for that doesn't mean you can do it well. Anybody can go pour some mud and, you know, watch it get hard. Like it's not that difficult, but getting it to be perfect is dang near impossible. Like concrete finishers chase the perfection constantly, and there's always issues and stuff to overcome. To make it look like it's easy is takes a long time. Takes a really long time to get that.
So I had just started. Not to sound braggy, my resume is fantastic. Like I've done all kinds of things from all different types of angles. I've been on the cruise, I've project managed, all those types of things. So I started working for this company, and they're redoing one of the casinos out here. And he's like, "You know some stuff about concrete, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm good." He's like how to do the forms and like all that kind of stuff. Like you understand it. Not that I was going to do the work, but he wanted someone that could oversee it. And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, no problem." So I get out there, and it's a step footing,
Yeah.
like 6 down over to a bunch of piers and then back up. So then he hands me this rebar schedule and the print, and I'm like, whew, this is intense, dude.
Yeah.
Because it had to come out to a full box, to drop down to a full box, to come out all the reinforcement on the inside, and it has to be the correct bars, it has to be the correct tying, like all that kinds of
Yep.
stuff, right? And it took me a sec, man, to
Yeah.
be like, okay, what is it I'm looking at here?
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
figure it all out, and
Exactly.
you're like, okay. And then you get out onto the field, and you're like, yeah, this is why I'm here, guys. This stuff's not right.
Yeah.
And then by the first about 20 feet, we had everybody figured out, because they just dropped like all of the rebar down. You know how they're
Yep.
usually wrapped up nice with a little tag on it?
Yep.
This is in the
Yep.
middle of
Yep.
the no tags.
Wow.
Uh,
That's
Dude,
that's
this is
rough.
brutal. I stayed till like midnight that night organizing them all.
Yeah.
And then we came back in the morning and we crushed it. But I mean, like when you're talking about concrete, like it's not a 6-inch pad in your backyard, man. Like
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
pretty serious deal.
No, it changes, and a lot of people don't get how much weight you're dealing with when you
Yep.
get over anything over a foot of concrete. I mean, it gets a lot of weight, and the forms get really I mean, really extensive.
Hmm.
Doing big foundation walls is a gigantic pain in the ass. People around here, a lot of foundation companies don't even want to do them. So if there's
Yeah.
any walls that are over 8 feet tall, they don't even want to do them. So it's yeah. I mean, it's all, there's just a huge world of concrete that people
Yeah.
don't get.
We same kind of thing. I was running sites and then I would jump in on difficult stuff for a previous company. And they were doing this massive home, two underground tunnels, one to the sports complex, one to the garage, you know what I mean, at ICF. Like it was just the craziest stuff. But on the other side of the tunnel was like a 20-foot hoarding wall that they were putting half-inch by half-inch wood on the forms. So when you pulled it all off, it had this beautiful grid with that hole for the tie-ins. Like it was aesthetic concrete, but the keyway and then the huge footing to then do like maybe an 8-inch wall up that high, dude.
Yeah.
Like just like sandwiching 2x4 and 2x4 and 2x6 and like just try, and
Yeah.
we had blowouts, dude.
Yep.
And like when you have that much concrete and that much work
Yep.
to do one for
And we keep losing. Hmm.
yeah, I just mean like that little bit of like a hiss and then you have a blowout and you're like,
Yeah.
dude, who's in charge here?
Well, it's really hard because depending on what you're doing, there is a lot of prep,
Yes.
and the pour is one shot, one
Hmm.
day, 4 hour really window of, okay, you got to get this mud on the ground or in the forms. It's a little bit different for a foundation because the majority of the work in foundations is the setup and the prep, and the pour is relatively simple. We keep having technology issues, but it happens.
It does
But
happen.
the the hard part about concrete is like flat work, you have quite a bit of prep, but just as much finishing it seems like, except for the finishing is like one little window. I mean, it's
Hmm.
you got one shot to get it. And foundation type stuff, you've got a ton of prep and your pour is relatively easy, and then that's essentially it. I mean, your majority of work is in the setting up of the foundation.
Right.
And even the tear down of the walls is of the forms isn't even that much. It's just labor intensive packing the forms around. But it's just a lot of people don't realize, I mean, even around here, you have a different company doing your footings, your foundations, and your flat work most of the time.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like people don't get that. And so a lot of times on a house, dealing with the concrete, you've got your concrete company, you've got your concrete pump company a lot of times that
Yeah.
depending on who's doing what, and three different companies doing different aspects of the trade around here. So like so many different hands involved in doing things, and that's just a world that a lot of people don't even know anything about. So it's really easy to look at concrete and be like, oh, those guys, they low IQ, they don't know, they're not smart guys. Their trade's easy, whatever. Because it's not an intuitive thing to know all of that stuff.
So when I see that kind of stuff in our industry, it's
Mhm.
because you couldn't afford for the real good guy to do everything up until the point where when you needed him. Like to pay me what I make finishing to board would be really stupid. The board would be great, but you know what I mean? You could have a team of guys for probably the same price come in and crush that in 2 days.
Yeah.
And do you find that there's a lot of like finger pointing because of that? Like I worked for a guy that said, this sounds aggressive, but he says I'm always looking for one throat to slit, not six. So you always
Yeah.
want a person to be accountable
Yeah.
because it's one conversation. Do you guys get into that kind of stuff if you're have like multiple companies on?
Well, no, because they don't really work with each other necessarily. They're all real, and that's the hard part about the concrete. I mean, you're dealing with concrete, but the footing prep and the footings is even different than the foundations, and
Right,
foundations are vastly different than the flat work. So you can't even compare the skill sets. So
right,
even if you have one company do it all, they've got different crews doing it. And if they don't have
right.
different crews doing it, then one of the other is going to look like trash. If you've got
Hmm.
one crew doing everything, unless it's like a small group of guys and they're really, really like detail oriented, you can't get enough experience finishing flat work to be good enough to be a professional if you're spending so much time doing footings and foundations and all that type of stuff. So, I mean, footings and foundations, a lot of times people at one company will do it because they're more similar, but like the footing guys, I mean, they'll come in and prep a footing and pour it and move on to the next one and do two more in a day for
Nice.
homes. Foundation guys, one foundation crew can come in and form a foundation and pour it in one day. Like it's but if you've got a company that's managing it all, that's kind of nice. But usually they have different crews, is what I'm getting at, that
Hmm.
handle those. So it's still different people doing each one because they're still different at different parts of the trade that are different enough that you need a different skill set to do. So we don't really get into the finger pointing necessarily. I mean, I think maybe in the production world, but maybe.
But everybody hits a checkpoint, and when your
Yeah.
checkpoints, you move on. That's
Yep.
totally fine. When
Yeah.
there's not a bunch of people touching the same thing from different companies,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's
that's
yeah,
cool.
I mean the footing and that's the thing is if you're looking at the building process here, when you dig your hole, you need an inspection. When you get your
Hmm.
footings prepped, you need an inspection. When you get your foundation prepped, you need an inspection. So it's like they're all kind of different things. And the companies around here, the footing companies and the foundation companies, they kind of work with each other enough that like they collaborate. But that's on the general contractor most of the time to tie in these people and manage it properly. So if you have a general contractor that doesn't know what they're doing, I mean,
Yes.
it can slow the process down. So, I mean, if you get into the commercial world around here, um, most general contractors want one concrete contractor to
Hmm.
handle them all, but that concrete contractor still has different crews and they're just kind of managing the concrete process. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing that a lot of people don't know or realize. So, I mean, we're close with a pump company around here,
Hmm.
and they have people call them and order concrete pumps, thinking that they supply the concrete and pour it and finish it.
Cool.
But so there'll be a couple times, like there have been a couple times where a pump will show up to a job and the person who orders like, oh, I thought you were bringing the concrete and pouring and finish it and stuff. It's like, no, there's a lot of work there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work there. I
No,
mean,
I drive that big truck is what
no,
I, yeah.
that's what
Like, what are
I'm
you
an
talking about?
operator. Yeah, I'm an operator. That's it. Like I don't know. Like I move the concrete from the truck to the pour. Like, but why would you assume that? Why would anybody assume that you need concrete company, a pump company, someone to prep and pour and finish? I mean, that it's not that intuitive. I mean,
No.
it's intuitive to people in the trade or in the industry, but like somebody else is like, oh yeah, I just need someone to do this concrete, you know?
Well, it's like going to the mechanic and being like, yeah, and when you're done with the oil change, if you could paint it and detail it, that'd be
Yeah,
dope.
exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
just
you know,
Yeah, there's
Just because we
different.
touch your car doesn't mean we know the whole deal, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because there are all of these misconceptions about the trades, and I think it's a lot of times what I talk about with people is it's because a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know very much because they're not explored very often, and like it's never an option really to go into a trade. So there's not a lot of education or push to go into the trades because like, oh yeah, that's just, you just go and do that if you can't go to school or whatever. Uh, Even though they're good, they're good jobs and you can make a good living and you can find a lot of passion and purpose in it. I mean, there's a lot of people that would say you couldn't find passion in drywall. And
Yeah.
look at you. I mean, that's one of the trades you would say, "Oh man, I can't believe you could do that." And I'm listening to you talk about it, and you're like, "Man, it's amazing." When you get these perfect walls and these corner beads that are amazing, and this type of stuff. I feel like we're getting to what's the word? Close to home on this topic, freezing up. More tech difficulties. We're speaking too much truths.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, you can find a lot of passion in construction and in these trades. And I mean, I don't obviously you found a lot of passion in drywall, and like I said, a lot of people would assume you can't.
I think it's just like anything, right? Like it's like art. You get a bunch of artists in a room looking at a piece of art and they all can be like, wow, I really like that. And these are the things. And oh, I could do that. And oh, that's the part I couldn't do. And I'll work on that. And I think in any trade, there are people like that that are like, this like brings me joy. I get excited about it. Like that kind of stuff. That's where top tier people live. Like they're not there for the job, quote unquote. They're there for what the job gives them, which is obviously a paycheck. But that like feeling of accomplishment, that like I'm doing it to the best of my abilities. When you get a couple of people like that around, it's
Well, it's important to touch on that because you're there for the paycheck and you can find a lot of purpose in having a job that provides you money to live your life and do things that you want with your family. But you also, in developing skills, testing yourself, trying new things, start to realize that you enjoy shaping the
mhm,
the reality in front of you, essentially. I mean, you're controlling this process very, very intricately with your hands. Which, like, so you get into this idea of production work. That's a lot of what's killing trade
mhm,
um, value, I think. People just get in, get out, get it done. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Like all the times I've found that I really enjoyed what I'm doing is when I'm doing something that's different than normal and I'm testing my abilities
mhm.
in creating something that's gonna be cool and people are like excited about. Like I did a little diving board project for one of our
Nice.
contractors. It's like the masons came in and did a little block square and I essentially put caps over top of them out of concrete. Like and I didn't even know that was happening and we were like, yep, that needs to be done. And I went and worked on it formed it for almost a whole day and poured it and yeah, it was cool. It was different. It was out of the normal. And I was able to pour concrete on top of a block wall and extend it over 18 inches. Anyways, I was able to really lost again. I was able
Yeah,
to
yeah.
overhang concrete over top of something so that people are gonna like jump off into a pool. I mean, that's cool. It's interesting stuff, and that's gonna last forever. Stuff like that. Like, man, it really like brings joy that you can do stuff like that. You can create things like that. Because that's the stuff you see online and you're like, that's cool. I
That's
want that.
wild.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think you kind of touched on it there with like just smashing out work. Like you have guys out there that own companies that don't know how to do the work. So they don't know where the quality standards are even available. So they go, this is the quality that we're going to get to. How cheap can I get the guys to come in to do it? Because then that gets me in with a cheaper price to try and get the jobs. And all you're doing there is facilitating bad work, but they're pumping it and pumping it and pumping it. Finding somebody that is passionate about a trade and is focused on quality and like that's the way to make money in this business is find the best possible product and do what you say you're going to do, not sell magic beans of like we'll get it done really quickly. Yeah, but will you get it done really quickly properly? And then then you have these big companies coming in doing poor work for X amount, which is way less than what we charge. And then that is now the industry norm. And along with that norm, drywall work is shit
Yeah.
because it's that kind of the circle that's being made right now. I construction's it's interesting. We need to
Yeah.
get into more education about it for
Hmm.
sure. Like a secondary school and things like that. We got some things in the works. It's
Yeah.
it's gonna be a good thing. 2025 is gonna be big.
That's awesome. They I mean I talk to people, people I have on the podcast. I've talked to a couple people in Massachusetts that have
Okay,
had vocational high schools, which is really cool.
nice.
I was surprised to hear that they do that, and both of them were from Massachusetts. Um, I just it's interesting. Um, the excitement. I think we need to bring some excitement back into trade work, because it's been the narrative has been pushed around by universities and colleges to assume that you need to do that instead. Um, like you need to do that to be successful, and it's almost become this idea that trade work is just dirty, cheap labor, and which isn't true. And but
Oh
it's just a lot.
man,
It's just what a lot of people think. It's just what a lot of people think that about the world because of what they've been told their whole life.
I take a look at the people that chose education, and easily half of them aren't doing what they're educated in, and then the other half, probably a big chunk of that, don't want to be doing what they've been educated in because it wasn't what they were passionate about. Some like counselor grabbed them by the face and was like, you're going to be poor living in a van, like you got to pick something, just pick anything, just do it. Like it's an 18-year-old kid that's scared to death now.
Yeah. Yep.
They just pick something and then are forced to put 5 or 6 years of their life into it, come out the other side miserable from school, in debt, and then you've got to go and work for somebody that you probably don't like,
Hmm.
and you're trapped there. I wake up when my alarm goes off. If I'm tired, I'll grab an extra hour sleep. I go to work on my own time. I do the best job I can, and I come home. And when you're at that kind of, I don't want to say that I'm at a top tier level or whatever, but like when that's what your focus is, you make a lot of money doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything feels good
Yeah.
because everybody's winning.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and it doesn't even matter. I mean, you could take that from the college perspective. Like, I mean, say you get into something you really love and passionate about. Obviously, you're going to make a lot of money. But like you said, it's people get pushed into these things and they
mhm.
get like this not this notion of go to school to figure out what you want to do is insane. I mean, say you go work in a trade for a couple years and realize, oh yeah, I actually do want to go to school, but I want to do this, and I'm gonna go
Yes.
and I'm going to attack this, this job, this degree that, doing this education, and I'm gonna do this with it. This is my vision for the future. A lot
Hmm.
of people are going into school, spending money to find out what they want to do and jumping around degrees and all that type of stuff. So, like, I don't tell people not to go to school, but it's like it's not the end all be all, and it's not where your fulfillment's going to come from or your purpose in your life. Like that doesn't come from any work. It comes from finding your like ability. I mean, you almost can find that in anything you do, but you have to be actively looking like in yourself. in what you do?
I think the most important thing is a plan. And if you haven't thought a plan through, you don't know what you want and you don't know what the long-term things like, is this job going to be the thing that you do because you don't want a wife and kids and like you just want to like be super this guy? Go do that. But if you want to have like a family and a home and like a cottage and all those types of things, that has to be a part of the plan. And then how can you afford that? And then what makes you happy? What brings you joy? And then put all that in the pot and make some good soup. That's your plan. And then go attack the plan. If you don't have a plan in place, you are a destinationless ship, right? You'll just go forever. If you've
Yeah.
got a straight point that you're going at, you get there way faster. You're happier than shit about it. The bad days, you're like, yeah, but it won't be in a year when I'm done, or whatever.
Yeah. Speaking about doing that stuff and being happy in what you do, I mean, you guys travel a little bit. I mean, I saw
Oh
you were
yeah.
just in Italy. Do you travel
hmm
every year?
So personal traveling, I don't do anything, man. So last year, my cousin like bullied me into going to Mexico with them. They stayed for 10 days. I went for 4, and
Mhm.
that was enough for me. On the fourth
Yeah.
day, I wanted to get back to work. But I travel for work a lot. Like
Yeah.
last year, I guess 2 years ago, it was just about every other month I was on a plane for work. And like just going to collaborate with people and go check out Columbia Tools, like the facility out there. Like we go to expos and that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, I don't do a lot of traveling. I'm waiting. I told myself my 30s were going to be for grinding hard and my 40s were going to be for building a business. And then, when that business starts coming around, there's a bunch of money in the bank and I can take like 2 weeks to go to Rome and like check everything out. That's when I want to go
Yeah.
because, it's that plane ticket. It's not what happens over there.
Yeah.
So it's like, how many times you're going to buy that plane ticket, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
And I enjoy what I do too. Like I don't need a vacation.
Yeah. Well, that's
And I,
that's an interesting part about today's society is everybody's like is trying to escape their reality.
oh, it's
Like they're
Friday.
yeah, I mean, get to the end of the work week and you got to go party it up and live it up and stuff. And it's like, why you always got to be waiting to get to the end of this thing or try to escape your normal life to
Yeah.
pretend to be something else or someone else? I mean, I like traveling and traveling. I would like to travel a lot of places, but it's not a necessity for me, and I can wait for that until I can do it easily,
Yeah,
readily,
properly.
and I don't need to do it to escape my life. I enjoy what I do. I like, especially, I mean, I stay super busy, and a lot of people are like, man, like, you ever not work or you ever not like doing things? I'm like, no, I don't think so. I mean, in the evenings I try to relax and hang out with my wife and baby, but I mean, I work and I like it. I enjoy it. And I'm doing a lot of different stuff too. I mean, even just like the both of us are in the Trollco
hmm
group. I've found a lot of joy in doing that, like making random videos and trying to and making content for clothing company because it's interesting, it's different than what I normally do.
Oh, and it's fun. And it's
Yeah,
it's another
it's fun.
community you're a part of,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yep,
wh-
exactly.
when people ask me that question of like, are you ever not working? My, like I always want to be like, ask me if I ever do anything I don't want to be doing.
Yeah,
Like, ask me that
that's a
question.
better question. Well,
Ask me that. It's a way better question.
because the idea is people don't want to work.
Yeah, I
Like
love it.
like because they don't enjoy it. And
hmm
that's the thing is like figuring out how to enjoy what you do. Not doesn't even matter what you do. Figuring out how to enjoy it is how you find meaning and purpose in your life. So if you don't enjoy it and you can't figure out how to enjoy it, you'll be miserable all the time. And then you
Yeah,
will need to look for the, you know, run to the bar on the weekends and
yeah.
waste all your time and travel and stuff because you don't enjoy what you do, so you got to escape that.
So just like what you're saying, some people look at, let's say, they're going to get a position that's $100,000, but they hate it, right?
Yeah.
But every Friday night you go and blow $300 because you're trying to unwind.
Mhm.
You're never around for your kids, so you're buying them a whole bunch of shit to like. make up for the fact that you suck.
Yeah.
You know, you're never around for your wife, so you're going on trips and making up for all of that time.
Yeah.
These are not
Yeah.
things that bring joy. These are
Yeah.
like guilt in the
Yeah.
form of money. So like take all of that money away from that 100 grand. What are you left with at the end of the year? Half,
Yeah.
right? Go
Not
get a
that great.
job that pays you half and be happy doing it and
Yeah.
then progress from there.
Yeah.
And you won't need that escape and you won't need to like make
Yeah.
up relationships, right?
Yeah.
Like it's all part of that plan, you know.
Hmm.
You talked about like bringing more excitement to the trades, and we've been able to do that this last 2 years. Like we've built and it's really through like CSR, who's our distributor, and Columbia Tools. But like we've probably got 30 of us now that are tight. Like we're friends, and we'll go to these events and do all these things. And like when you're working together, it's just a blast. I wish more trades were doing that, where like you were calling in other like gangsters of the trade to come work on a big site with you. You kill it. You're all staying at a big house together because you rent it. You're eating together. You're waking up together. Like it's a lot of fun. It's like a little vacation, but you still get to do the thing that makes you happy. And I'd love to see more trades doing that because I
Yeah.
just don't see it.
Yeah. Well, you don't see it very often because I think that Instagram and social media is playing a good part in bringing and showcasing that stuff. So
Totally.
I think it's really good every time I see people that are posting what they do and how and their day in the life stuff, videos on the job, all that type of stuff, and showing how interesting it can be, showing the highs and lows and just how it's life. I mean, you're living, you're doing things. You're not just sitting at a freaking computer gaming, which again, nothing wrong with that either, but like you're out there doing stuff and it can be fun and you can make money and it's interesting.
I think that's been a big part of my Instagram as I do the stories. Like just about every day I got
Yeah.
stories. Like October we took kind of a big hit, but like prior to that it was like every single day everything going on, and like
Yeah.
the best ones weren't like, oh, we killed it today. It was like when the site kicks you in the stomach,
Yeah.
but it's, you know, we got 3 more days on it now, or and like how do you handle that stress, and like can you find the positive in it, and it's real
Hmm.
life stuff, right? And you really get to know people doing that, which is fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about your podcast real quick
Yeah, dude.
before we wrap this up because I think we're coming up on time. But so how have you been doing the podcast the whole time you've been doing your business?
Kind of.
How many episodes do you have? Kind of. I think I saw at one point, but I don't want to
Yeah,
misrepresent.
I think we're at 80, 82 episodes or something like that.
Okay.
I used to do a monthly episode for Columbia because they'd have like a tool of the month, and like I've had a bunch of them that I don't add to that number, but like we're probably somewhere just shy of 100. But I've been doing it for like 2 years now. Um, but it's very, I don't want to say lazy, but we do this. I hit record, we
Yeah.
talk, and then I put it out there. I don't
Yep.
edit. I don't.
Yeah.
I basically tell everybody like, be a gentleman. Like I'm not going to edit this. So if you want to sound like an idiot on the internet, you're more than welcome to do that. But you know, I'm not pulling any punches if
Yeah.
that's who you are, right? And
Yeah.
it works out good.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we've been doing it a while. We get into like technical stuff with certain people, and like we get into other stuff. Like Cam was into beekeeping, and
Mm,
like we talked about that. Like some of these ones, like Nate came over with some hot wings, and we like drank beer and ate super hot wings for 3 hours shooting the shit. And it's like, and then you'll go from that to like a very technical.
losing. Yeah.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. That's okay. We're doing good. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's good, man. It's fun. It's like there's another drywall podcast,
Uh-huh.
and he's more of like an interview, and mine's kind of been like the locker room after the game, where it's just a hangout, so it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah, I mean I like what you're doing because like I've said, a lot of people don't know much about drywall, and I think it's cool to show a passion and interest for it. Like just to show people like what you can do. So
Yeah,
I've enjoyed watching a lot of those videos, and I found you and T Mac taping and
yeah,
some maybe Gilbert taping, maybe some
yep.
of a whole community of people on Instagram. I had no idea. I mean, so it's yeah, it's always fun to overcome the stipulations and the stereotypes of behind trades.
Well, and it's fun when people are kind of, I don't want to say name dropping, but doing what you just did. And it's like, yeah, I've met them in person. I've worked with them. I've
Yep.
done this, I've done that. And it's like, you know that they're not full of shit. Like the people
Yeah.
that are kind of level of success,
Yep.
it's because it's earned, you know, and
Mm.
everybody has the same kind of mind frame. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
a good deal, dude, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. This was
Awesome.
dope.
Yeah. This is fun. This is a fun one. We don't do 3 hour podcasts around here usually, but maybe when you come back on, we'll have to do a 3 hour one.
Well, you're more than welcome to come on mine.
Oh yeah.
We'll just let it run.
Oh yeah. I forgot we need to do that too, huh? Um, Speaking of that, where can people go to find that and find you?
Instagram's the best place. So Instagram, Brawley's Dad Construction, on YouTube and Spotify and like a bunch of other like smaller podcast distributors. You can find the podcast. We're gonna start getting into YouTube stuff of like why I do things, what tools, like that's all gonna start coming this year too. But Instagram is really the place to do it. You kind of get a deep dive into the life because
Yep.
we got all the stories and
Yeah.
we're kind of connected into everybody, which is
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah, I like Instagram for that reason because there's lots of diversity in the way the media is shared. So awesome. Awesome,
All
dude.
right,
This
bro.
was great. We'll have to do it again and we'll be on yours at some point soon.
All right.
So
Anytime, brother.
sweet.
Thanks for having me.
Sweet. Yeah, thanks.